No, no, Mandy, it wasn't that at all. It was quite the opposite. Wedge was so happy that I married Jules because he knew it wasn't going to work out for. I couldn't leave New England. I just couldn't do it. And Jules was staying there in New England, and in a sense, maybe I said this already that Wedge had a first love, which was that farm in Pennsylvania. So he understood, and as a matter of fact, he barely had a car that he could barely trust to get to town and back. But he came all the way back to New England, to New Hampshire, for our wedding. He was the best man at our wedding. I'm telling you, he was really excited. We had the reception at that same cabin on Lake Sunapee, and so no, it wasn't that at all. At that point, Elaine uh, said, "Were you hippies?" And again, Violet smiled and said, "No, no, we weren't hippies. We were hippie sympathizers. At that time, it was hard to have any choice about it, but we weren't rich enough to be hippies. And so we were married, and Wedge, for his part, he was working away, still hoping somehow that we'd go down there and join him. Well, it was continued to be really hard, and it wasn't too long after we were married that I ended up getting pregnant, and it wasn't a good time to be pregnant for us, and uh, we ended up losing the baby, and that maybe was a lot of it, but it was just too hard. Uh, uh, you know, Jules had his principles, and if we'd had that baby, probably he would have given up on his principles and just practiced law and forgot being a carpenter. Uh, but it's hard to talk about this stuff, and Elaine said, "Yeah, yeah, I understand." But anyway, Wedge, we sort of understood. Jules and I, we realized that it was. I don't know if a divorce can be friendly, but we understood and realized it was the right thing to do. I wanted to have children, and it was going to be just so hard. Uh, but when Wedge heard about it, he couldn't handle it. He got to him. I was a traitor. That how could he let Jules down? I mean, he took it so hard, and really from that point on, it's not as if he wouldn't have anything to do with me, but we drifted apart. So that was it. And now, uh, Violet had sort of felt she'd finished her story, and she started the engine up and was about ready to get back on the road. But then Elaine said, "I've got one more question, Gmo. Were you and Wedge lovers?" And at that point, Violet turned the engine back off and looked at her granddaughter and said, "Mandy, yes, and of the truest and deepest kind."